Good morning. It's Ujjval from the Geo-Negative axis, the universal negative axis, will be found. So, people are requesting for the next book, but I cannot do it just yet because there's still legalities still mixed up for 3 or 4 years now, 5 years, of people not understanding how to pay people and other things. It's crazy world we're dealing with. If we don't laugh about it, we'll go crazy. So anyway, let's get into some transcendental book first. We're going to go with Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a book full of nectarian energy and understanding. It is the first canto that we're going to look for. We're just going to go on a Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right, so we got Nasta prayeshu abdreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloka bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam and rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed. And loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So the Lord eventually becomes established in your heart. You understand? There's no doubt about it. You become firm in faith by regularly hearing Nasta Prayeshu, all inspiration, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Okay? And it becomes Naishtiki, irrevocable. Bhakti Bhavati, the bhakti, the devotion you have in your heart becomes irrevocable. You become firm in this faith. It's called Nishtha. Nishtha, right? Which is faith. There's no moving you. That's kind of what that means. Nishtha. You're fixed. All right. So here is the remedy, the purport, for eliminating the most inauspicious things of the heart, which is considered to be the obstacles of self-realization. The remedy is association of the Bhagavats, the pure devotees, the ones who know the scriptures. By associating with them, you become firm in faith. There are two types, right? The book and the person. Both are competent remedies. So it says you can also read these things, right? But the devotee Bhagavat is good as the book Bhagavat, because the devotee Bhagavat leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavat. And the book Bhagavat is full information of the personality God, and the book is identical. The devotee Bhagavat is presented Bhagavan. Human reasons fail to understand how the serving devotees of Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual motion to path of devotion. So you can't understand this by human reasoning, because you'll get caught up. You're caught up in your confusion of, I need to chase the day, I need to serve myself, I need to serve my ego. There's something I want. I want to be him, I want to be beautiful, I want to be that, I want to be that girl, I want to be this, that, right? So there's, a lot of things that need to, the more progress is made in devotional service and guidance in the Bhagavats, the more one becomes fit and transcendental loving service to the God. Okay? And then the next verse is, at the time loving service is established in the heart, the modes of passion and ignorance and lust and desire disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes happy. So people, this is how you become happy. Not by stealing other people's happiness, not by saying, oh, that person's happy, we need to bother them. Okay? Because, a lot of people are miserable, and then people don't want to engage with them. So, we can't make the persons that are not miserable and happy in their spiritual life become victims of those who aren't. And this is happening a lot in the Western yoga. And also it happens in the East. But we see this now with electronics. One of the first things we said when they started to brain hack me was, he doesn't really suffer. He is like in some self-satisfaction, even with all the tribulations he has. He's not moping and he's not miserable. And they wanted that. They wanted to disturb that. So that's something you can never do with electronics. It has to be banned as the most infamous, the most disastrous curse fie upon them, okay, to stop them, because they will ruin what is good. If you know, the spying and everything has to be stopped. So, and this is the process, okay, you understand? So you want to understand, how do I get this out of us? And also, thus established in the mode of goodness, the the woman rejuvenated by the loving service of the Lord gains liberation from material association and becomes to know scientifically of the personality of God. So what is the outcome? They get detached from material life. They don't want to deal with this material world in the material aspects. They don't care for the material aspects. They can see a person driving around with the most beautiful women and they don't care. Good for him, if that's what he wants. If he's going to find misery, I don't want it. You understand? Because they understand. They already conquered lust. They conquered greed. So it's not like you have to live in lust and anguish of your lusty desires and you have to watch porno and all these things that the Western people are demoralizing you with. You don't have to do that. Or even the West, you don't have to do it. Okay? You don't. You have to tend to your soul, which is the gardener's duty, because the soul, the heart, is where everything is coming from, life force. So when you tend to that, by hearing this, you nourish your soul. If you tend to your objects, your senses, touching, sexualizing, feeling, touching, the touching aspect, you know, and the smelling and the, you know, the interaction of this, and that's your only thing, you're not feeding your soul. You understand? Sometimes even just being with your spouse or your loved one and, you know, exchanging loving, you know, talks and, you know, embraces and stuff is much more soothing and satisfaction than actual sexuality. It happens a lot. It's hard to resist when you're touching each other, right? Opposite sex and all this, but already some groups are the same, but that's what it is. You have to be able to extrapolate what you really want, which is love. You want love. You know, lust is a product of it. And if you're not careful, you'll only be looking for lust. Trying to actually get love and not understanding you need love. That's what's going to nourish you. And you could be walking away from it. A lot of people do that. They're in a relationship and there's somebody so loving to them and so compatible to them, but they want this other person that's sexy and mean and just not good for them. This happens a lot in the world. So many people are like, so many girls like that these days. They don't know who to go with. They look for Mr. Mean or Mr. Money Man, and then they're never satisfied. You see them over time, you know. They have little ups, you know, oh, here I am in a nice mansion, nice car, and then, you know, see them a few little, you know, even on the internet, they can't hide it. From people like me, at least. So never look for anything besides yourself, your soul. Even who you are doesn't matter. How you look does not matter. You are a soul, and you're going to change no matter what. You're going to grow old. You're going to become dust. You're going to become ugly dust no matter what you do. Or an ugly corpse no matter what you do. So you don't have to worry about this body. You have to worry about your soul. You are a soul. Understand? You're not these bodies. They taught you wrong. If anybody said you're the body and the soul, no, they're wrong. The soul, the body is changing over and over. The body is given different designations over and over. And the soul is an atomic spirit of God that is eternal, beautiful, and full of knowledge. It is not that body. That body is limited. It becomes gross if you don't wash it. It becomes, you know, if you don't eat right, it becomes sick. It is not you. You're not. That's not the soul. The soul is a spirit. It's an atomic spirit of beauty and consciousness that is let's say, contaminated whatsoever. There's no contamination to it. There's no contamination. Nothing of dearth. Nothing's lacking. You have all the beauty. So as I explained, beauty, Krishna means Krishna. Why is that a name of God, one of the most superior name of gods? Because it invocates Krish, beauty, na, meaning ever, no end, no end, the origin of it, the source of it, the reservoir of beauty. as I said, even the worm is looking at the dirt and saying, or the stool, and saying, this is a very nice, this is beautiful. Wow, I have somewhere to live, and it's dirty, I could hide in it and eat it. And so that beauty that worm is experiencing ultimately comes from Krishna. That beauty that you see in the celebrity ultimately comes from Krishna. That beauty you find in the little child ultimately comes from Krishna. All of that experience of consciousness that you experience is coming from Krishna. He's the origin of that. That he's the computation, the data. You understand how they make the computer figurations to be? He configured that into the whole spectrum of life. He's the origin. That's why we tend towards Krishna. You understand? That's the one supreme God. So if they say Hindus don't have a supreme one God, it's wrong. Krishna is considered the original supreme God. That is the truth. Shiva Mahesh is part of that. He's an expansion of it. Therefore, like a team of that. You understand? Also, Balaram is an expansion, the first expansion, then Mahesh. So we have to see these things in accordance, how they work. And I was explaining the hexagram, how there's 3 on the top here, right? I explained it before. In this world, it's Vishnu. They say Vishnu is like Krishna, right? Brahma is like Balaram, right? The knowledgeable guru. That's also Brahma. Also, Akhanda Guru Tattva is from Balaram, from Krishna's first expansion, also known as Bal. And then Brahma is that in these worlds. In these worlds, in the material universes, we have a Brahma, a Balaram expansion, which is Brahma. Then we have Vishnu, which is like Krishna. Then above them is Mahesh. So it kind of gets inverted here. You understand? It's like Brahma is like kind of in the middle, right? Vishnu is like Krishna, but he's not the least, but he's, let's say, the least to do with things here. You understand? He's even kind of removed, but he's a super soul in everything. So he is part of everything, but he hasn't actually given into the creation. He hasn't actually created in it. That is Brahma creating these material universes. So he's impregnating them with the consciousness. So he's kind of like, let's say, the least part of it. And then the ultimate God, regulator of these material universes, is Mahesh. He's the one, Mahadev, that is sought after. He's the one that even regulates Vishnu and Brahma in these material universes. And there's many of them. There's many of these expansions. There's even a pastime when they all meet, all these expansions. They kind of meet to get Lalita because of Bandasur. Bandasur was so powerful, and he was conquering different galaxies, the Milky Way, the Andromeda. So he was conquering all of them and all these demigods in them, and all these gods, and he had to be stopped. So they all had to go to a council and stop him, because he actually did penance in celestial years of 60,000 years, which here is like millions of years or something like that, millions. It's crazy how much penance and austerity he did, that he became so powerful that they had to summons the spiritual world, the eternal world, to bring down, Lalita, which is like a representative of Krishna Shakti. One of the expansions, like the ambassador, they had to summons her and beg for her mercy to stop him. So you understand? That's how the hexagram works. So in the spiritual world, it's the other way around. Mahesh is the third, he's the junior. Balaram is still in the second, in the middle. And Krishna is the top, the origin, Vishnu. He's the most worshipped, the most worshipful. Vishnu here is also the most worshipful as well. Don't get me wrong. But there is, when you look at all the Leelas, you start to understand that there's little positions here, a little hierarchical existence that actually, happen to Leelas with Vishnu. Krishna's like, his junior, his son, and Mahesh Exactly like that. You see, the viewers make the comparisons to understand that they're in different categories. All right. So here we go. And it's also known that if you're a sage and you want to do ascetics, you worship Shiva. So that it's also for the higher, the more erudite, advanced devotees. They worship Shiva. You understand? In this world, and Krishna, they can worship Krishna too. But there's also a prefix like that. And you want to be a tyagi, like a person that's very renounced, you get the blessings from Shiva. The sages are supposed to worship Shiva. So here, they're supposed to be indebted to him. Not like you worship, but they're supposed to realize their debt to him and how they can benefit by worshiping him. So now we're going to go on the Geo-Negative axis and finish it off with a little of my book, the Code of Earth's Creational System. Unlock New Potential, Geo-Negative axis. If you don't have this book, it's on Lulu, okay? Code of Earth's Creational System. Let me know if you get it, all right? All right, so we're just going to go into definable principles of GNA. I confer I didn't just ponder this all in one day, as some genius skipping rocks in a lake, although GNA did come clear and evident to me by a lake as I was meditating in an early autumn middle of the day on 2016 by one in Berkeley, California. The concept was raveling with me for some time, and I even quoted it in context before as it was underdeveloped, though residing in me I could perceive. But I didn't fully understand how applicable it was. This is referring to when I was in college. I actually wrote a little essay, a little paper, and I handed it to my professor because I said, I think this Geo-Negative axis is more embedded into our society than we understand. But it wasn't until I put it together, so I figured in 2016 that it actually correlates with the elements, let's say, or the dimensions, the dimension of water, fire, or light, air, and then breaking down light, and then the negative aspects of them too. Everything has a negative. So these things I'm going to further explain in other books. Once, as I said, I get things clear. So if you want it, if you're a person of knowledge, you should be talking to the FCC, all the other regulators to say, why isn't this person allowed to be paid for his books and be untampered right now? The problem of being tampered. So the first evident appearance I saw was in arithmetic as a double negative. Makes it positive, and that love was a negation of the self. Therefore, it was prosperous to make work of motion or motion. Love means to show care, compassion, adoration. I saw these things first about negation and said, with many not fully knowing that love is the reason for life and it is the true religion, but few know it is a negative. It's negation. You have to negate yourself in order to love. People think, oh, it's positive. I gotta smother this person in the way I want to, which is partial. But if you're not doing it with a selfless heart, it could just become smothering. You understand? You just say, oh, I love you. I wanna. This is how I love you. You know, I put a pillow on you, and I massage you when you don't want to, and all these things. So people are used to saying, be positive, and positive is a level of cheerful and some ideology they spoofed up, when in fact it's just negation of bad things before expected or things contrary to our progress or happiness. The other big misconception is that negative plus negative equals positive is only for math and academics, when no, it is really as per life. You put something that's negative, something that is negated, you will have negated their negation, thereby make something. You understand? Let's read that back one. If you put something that negates something that is negated, as I just said, you have to negate your heart to put something in it, you will have negated their negation. So it also, the double negative also works in life. So if you say, I'm going to negate that person from, hating those people, right? You're negating their negation because they're negating somebody, and what are you going to make? A positive in yourself. So you make the positive in yourself, the real positive that fructifies, so it applies to life. And that's what I presented in 2006, and then 10 years later, I put it together mathematically or with the rest of it. So negativity discovered. The first time I heard of this thought process, I began to pursue the school of negativity. and it was actually a mystery to me. Seek Understanding was from a well-renowned, very published guru and spiritual leader from India, Bhakti Sridhar Swami, who's also my guru. When I was 8 years old, I took Harinam over the phone from him. Was an all-around philosopher, and he mentioned, based on much of what thought process theological reference was, wasn't trying to create an academic school of philosophy conservative activity, although he did stress his students and followers to pursue this negative formation in life and ideology. I do feel fortunate that he has let me understand its content and allowed me to relate to the masses in the micro setting. He himself released over 20 titles in over a dozen languages and worldwide centers and honors and functions today. Based on the yoga and transcendental process of spirituality, then he left his disciples. He composed Sanskrit standards that are parallel to ancient sages and rishis and versions of Sanskrit, very ancient and authentic original. His work was nothing less than that of a super genius. So he himself was a super genius. And as I just spoke to you, this is also kind of a correlation, a miracle in a sense, because we were talking about how the Bhagavat, the person, can give you the information or the book. If they're not there, you have to tend to the book, but honestly with a negated heart to understand things. Not that I know everything. I know what these guys are talking about. I have my own opinions. No. Negate yourself when you're reading the scripture so that it understands. And when you're reading high thought, authentic philosophers and gurus about this stuff, because you could also get good information from them. They can help you through their books. They want to help you. Divinity is as when somebody was to say, the mercy is coming at us. There was a guru that said this. The mercy is coming at us at levels that we cannot even understand. They are trying to give us so much mercy and energy and power, but we have to do the right things to get it. We cannot do things wrong. We cannot push somebody out. We cannot try to shadow them. Then you're a demon. You're Rahu, right? Ketu. You're trying to be a person that eclipses others, and you're not going to get the full nectar and understanding of life. You understand? You may not even get liberation for that. So don't do it. Work on yourself. Okay? That's the message of today. The miracle of today was the Bhagavat, as I explained, went from book to book. We can't even escape even making one miracle. God is that merciful. And he wants to show you that he's real. And everything here, the spirituality is real and should be pursued. Not the material mundane pursuits. Not the prestige of trying to rule everybody and have money and be able to push it on people. That is not the goal of life. You understand? You only have so many times in a day you can mate. So many times in a day you can eat. So don't think that you could sit around and enjoy this entire world and and it's not going to affect you. It's going to eat your life away. It's going to be sinful, and it's going to take your spiritual life away if you're not careful. And making offenses is the destroyer of your devotion. All the sins, they will just stump your devotion, right? They won't let you proceed, won't let you go further because you're sinning. You're going away. But if you make offenses to devotee, your devotion goes down, 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 down until it's completely gone. So you're completely demonized and faithless. So that's the message for today. And I hope it works for you in some great way. I believe it's May 4th, 5th. And it's the morning time in Florida here, Eastern Standard. And God bless. I hope this information does you some good in your life.